This video is for CDE 255, the Performing Arts Foundations and Frameworks course. And in your Week 3 discussion, Part 2, we look a little more closely at how the foundations and frameworks are aligned to other learning standards, such as the Head Start Early Learning Framework, the DRDP, which is an assessment tool that's used, or even transitional kindergarten or kindergarten standards. And if the presentation wasn't obvious to you, it's probably because you haven't had a lot of experience either doing DRDPs or working in a transitional kindergarten or Head Start setting. And so that's why I wanted to do this quick tutorial. So what I'm going to do is show you the resources that you will use to answer this Part 2 question. So we're going to go back to the home page and we're going to look at the online resources for our course. And if we scroll down, we can find that this is the alignment document, which is the full version that has all of the foundations and how they're aligned to all of the different learning standards in California. It is a big document. Sometimes it's easier just to look at the specific learning standards themselves. And so I want to start the most common alignment we see for the foundations and frameworks is to the DRDP, which is the Desired Results Developmental Profile, which is an assessment tool that teachers use mostly in settings where they receive California state funding. And I'm just going to click on this. Our foundations tell us what we think children should learn. The frameworks tell us how to teach it, and then the DRDP is used to assess whether or not we're doing a good job. Have children actually attained the competencies in these different domains? And so you can see there's approaches to learning and social and emotional development, language and literacy. And down here in the corner is the visual and performing arts. And so I'm going to scroll down and so you can just see what the assessment tool looks like. And so I've stopped on the visual and performing arts within music. And you see that the overall goal is that children expresses and creates by making musical sounds with increasing intentionality and complexity. And if you read through some of the expected behaviors here, you'll notice that these correspond quite a bit to the foundations that we studied in the first week. In fact, if we look maybe here where it talks about responds rhythmically to a song or a chant, those are some of the behaviors that are outlined in the foundations. And so you can see how the document that said, what we want to teach preschool children, later we are trying to evaluate whether or not we've managed to accomplish that, and we're measuring how children are progressing through these different competencies up until kindergarten age. So that's just an example of how the foundations and frameworks could align with the DRDP. Some of you will be working in Head Start classrooms, and so I want to take you to this as well. Within the Head Starts, they have the Early Learning Outcomes Framework. And if we go to preschool domains, approaches to learning, we'll see that creativity is under approaches to learning. And then they have goals and expected behaviors. that we would see. So the goal is that a child expresses creativity and thinking and communication, and then it has some expected behaviors at between 3 and 4 years, between 4 and 5 years, and then 5 years old, kind of what we expect. And then uses imagination and play and interactions with others. And so here with some of the using imagination with materials to create stories, those are some of the behaviors that we saw in the drama strand within our foundations. So that would be how you might correspond or correlate the foundations to the Head Start early learning framework. And I wanted to point out, I'm going to scroll down just a little bit, the great thing about the Head Start website, if you haven't explored it at all, is that there are some great resources that can help give you ideas as a teacher of what to do in the classroom. And in fact, next week as we start thinking about our curriculum plans, this is a little video that we're going to watch. So even in this class, we do use some of the Head Start resources. And I'm going to go back to, sorry about that, back to the alignment. The last one I wanted to show you is if you are hoping to work in a TK or kindergarten classroom, you might be interested in looking at the California Art Standards for pre-K through 12. And this document is over 200 pages, so I'm just going to briefly show you the way it's organized is, if we look at, let me go back up to music if I can. There we go. For music, it has from pre-K to 8, they have standards in creating and performing and responding to music and connecting to music. And if we go all the way to page 85, we can see that it has that they provide standards for pre-K music in creating, and then these are kindergarten, first grade, second grade. And again, it gives you ideas of what behaviors you might see or competencies you might see. And again, here we see, we talked about in the DRDP, it talked about rhythm and beat. And then here in the kindergarten standards, we see that repeated again. And so the purpose of this portion of the discussion is to really get you looking at some of the other standards and seeing how they really complement the foundations and frameworks and how they work together. So that's the purpose of that portion of the discussion. Please do let me know if you have questions as you begin working on it. You just need to identify one area from the DRDP or one area from the Head Start standards. You don't need to look at all of them, but I kind of wanted to take you through just a brief introduction to it. Thanks so much for watching.